Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Behind Enemy Lines. We are on episode 11, which actually matches our subscriber number. So good job, all 11 of you. Keep it up.
We
Uh,
need we need you to get another we need another subscriber so we can do episode 12. So tell
12,
your
there we go. Yeah,
get your dog a Facebook account, get them signed up, however we have to do it. I mean, we could be like the Democrats and I shouldn't, go there, but
yeah.
we'll get some mail-in ballots a different way. So figure it out, get us to 12 to 15 to 20. It'll be
Yeah.
fantastic.
So today's episode, we're going to introduce a new feature. We're going to do our trivia as always. We're going to introduce a new feature, which I'll fill you in on very shortly. And we're not going to have necessarily a topic per se. We're going to have a road trip episode. As you know, Montreal isn't currently heading or on the way out to the West Coast to play a few games. And we're basically going to do predictions and discussion about them four road games. So, on that note, I'm going to welcome Steve.
Welcome, Hab Nation. It's good to be back for another episode as we go down this journey co-hosting Habs hockey. We couldn't ask for a better group of people, and especially when we are sitting pretty in the standings. So anytime the Habs are winning, it's always better. And thanks for each and every one of you who have joined us. We do love and appreciate the support. So, Habs hockey all the time. Let's go.
Alrighty. And on that, I'm sure it's no surprise, but you got another great trivia question for us.
Right. So we'll keep this relevant again. This is the start of a four game road trip. So we will make it Calgary themed. What player has scored the fastest overtime goal in Stanley Cup playoff history? So that's the question. The answer obviously has a West Coast theme to it. So that should give you a little bit of a hint.
Mm. All right. Yeah, so again, as always, you always have great trivia, great insight, which leads us to we're gonna do a new feature here on the podcast. We got talking earlier this week, talking about, different things and, Toronto, the whole scenario. And you've heard us say many times about how Toronto chases their stars out of town to only go win cups in other places. On that note, we're gonna have our Aristotle cause and effect feature on the podcast, starting this episode. And what we're going to do is it's going to be the Mitch Marner cause and effect episode. We're calling it Aristotle, even though there was no particular link to him. He was the first one who really used the causational theory of, for every cause, there's an effect. So, for what's basically happening is Mitch Marner's gone out of town, going somewhere else. How does that affect the Leafs? And I think we all pretty much know the answer to that. But, anyways, let's
Well,
dive right into that one.
Well, as we know, Mitch was a 100-point player. He flirted with that
Regularly.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah, he flirted with that number close. He had 99 one year. I think he was 96 or 97 one year. I mean, he has put up some stellar numbers. And we saw him at the Four Nations Cup. Was riding shotgun with some fluky Canadian guy named McDavid or something, whatever his name is, and looked pretty good doing that as well. And as we know, legacies are born by the legends themselves, and McDavid got an overtime gold medal clinching goal, and Mitch Marner passed the puck out. Where does that tie into the Toronto Maple Leafs? He's not there anymore. How does that impact him? Well, we talked about this in an episode about 4 episodes ago. What is wrong with the Leafs? Mitch Marner is wrong with the Leafs. So if you're a Leaf fan, you know a Leaf fan, Mitch Marner has got to be living in the brains rent free of probably 750,000 people in Toronto right now. The Leafs are not off to a good start. Is it solely on the back of Mitch Marner? It's got to start somewhere. Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews rode as two guys, 1A, 1B, however you want to call it, for 7 years. One guy had a shit ton of goals, and the other guy had a shit ton of assists. And now one of them isn't there.
Mhm.
One of them is Viva Las Vegas and living it up like the best of them.
Yeah.
Whether he's into transvestite dancers on the strip or what, he's still scoring in
Mhm.
different ways out there. So right now, I know Vegas is off to a hot start. Jack Eichel is leading the league in points. Should we be surprised?
No, I don't think so. And I'm just gonna give you a quick update here. Mitch Marner actually over his career has more points than Austin Matthew does. He's played a few more games. Um, but right now, currently, as of 7 games right now with Vegas, Mitch Marner has 2 goals, 8 assists, which is pretty much on par for what he's been doing his whole career. On the other hand, you have Austin Matthews in 7 games has 4 goals and 2 assists, which, for 6 points, and we both know 2 of them were empty netters. So for argument's sake, he's got 4 points this year. I think he's definitely feeling the Mitch Marner effect of not being there. Not They never replaced Mitch Marner's points. I don't see how they're going to do that either.
Well, that's it's a tough one because it's a double-edged sword. One guy is one guy responsible? It seems to be because in large part their core and I'm not going to say core four, their core in general. You go up and down the list. Who was there last year and who is still there this year? Most of that roster is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they swapped out Mitch Marner. You got Nicholas Waugh and Dakota Joshua. That was sort of the two replaceable players. The defense core is still the defense core. Anthony Stolars is still their number one goalie. Austin Matthews is supposed to be their captain and perennial leader. And now they are starting to get out of the gates.
Mhm.
Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of guys.
Yeah.
You know, I wish Marner all the best. Like I said, that number 93 in gold looks pretty good on the kid, and I hope he does well. Not at our expense when we go out there, but I hope he does well.
Yeah. And we've listen, you and I have had this conversation at least 2 or 3 times a week for however many months we've been at this. Um, Matthews is the guy that should have gone, and Marner should have stayed. I know the Leafs fans or the Leaf mentality in the city of Toronto. They hated on him. I know they did some pretty bad things as far as doxing him with his address and things were said and done. I mean, it's no wonder the kid wanted out. I wouldn't stay either. But uh, like I said, we're going to go on the Aristotle watch here now. We're just going to, every episode, we'll give a quick Mitch Marner update where he's at goals and assists wise, and maybe even start a Stanley Cup tracker for him because, Vegas has a real good shot of winning it. And I would love to see him, hoisting that cup in his hometown and, giving the middle finger to all the Toronto fans that treated him so bad,
Yeah.
undeservedly, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, being a hometown hero player is tough. I mean, it bears the weight of the world, and it really does. And that kid, he's not a 6'5" giant. He's a small guy taking on a lot of pressure, and I thought he did so admirably.
Mhm.
You and I had talked about it. We will do this a few episodes down the road. Austin Matthews, should he have been the guy who was traded? That's an episode in itself. What would an Austin Matthews trade look like, and what could the Leafs have got to help Mitch Marner? We'll do that. We'll do that one
Yeah,
because
that's an excellent idea.
that in itself is a microcosm of concern that Leaf fans should have. Um,
Yeah.
but enough about what's in the past. What's in the present is one team is doing well, one team isn't,
Mhm.
one player is not there.
Mhm.
You guys, you're pretty bright. Connect the dots. There's always next year, and that saying rings a little bit brighter in the ears
Yeah.
when this is the cause and effect.
Yeah, and I'm just going to sum it up with this real quick and tell you as listeners and you, Steve, that the expression I use most at work with being a carpenter, trust the math, the numbers don't lie. You know what I mean? When you're
True
figuring stuff
story.
out, the numbers don't lie. And right now, they're proving that Marner is the guy, Austin Matthews is not the guy without Marner.
Right.
Anyways, on that note,
And we could eat crow down the road,
yeah,
but
we're not eating
trending,
it today.
yeah, we're not eating it today.
Okay, on that note, let's dive right into this week's uh, topic, which is kind of more or less basically our road trip discussion. Coming up over the next 4 games, we've got Calgary, we've got Edmonton on Thursday night. We've got Vancouver Saturday night, and I just want to make a quick note about that start time. Even though they're in Vancouver, it's a 7 p.m. Eastern start time, so it's an afternoon game in Vancouver. So we
Yeah.
don't want you guys going to the TV, at 10 o'clock at night, which there usually are, and the game's already been played. Hopefully with a winning result. And then Tuesday they're in Seattle. That's a 10:30 start at night. So get your afternoon nap in, and then they're off then now till the following Saturday when they're at home to hosting Ottawa, which should be a good game, but we won't talk about that one. So the next four road games: Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle. We touched briefly on the Calgary game the last episode. What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, this is, I mean, if there's a time to get a mini Western road trip, because we'll do the California trip where we do San Jose and Anaheim and Vegas, and we'll do that dance another day. If there's a time to play Calgary and Edmonton, it's now.
Mhm.
Both teams are off to bad starts. Uh, McDavid only scored his first goal the other day, so he's 6 games in, 1 goal. They are still battling the Stuart Skinner who can't save a beach ball mentality, and when Stan Bowman is going to figure out that he needs a freaking goalie. I know they made a deal and they got Connor Ingram. He's sort of recovering because he had some time off, in the player assistant program, a mental leave, I think. He's back. He's in Bakersfield playing with the Condors, getting a few games in. At some point, he's gonna don the blue jersey in the big league. But let's hope we pass through town and he doesn't come out and play the game of his life on Thursday while we're there.
Yeah.
Um, and then Vancouver, they're kind of a hit and miss franchise. The last 2 or 3 years, they've shown that they're up there with the best of them, and then they showed that they're down there with the worst of them. So a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde franchise. So, Saturday is still a few days away and a couple of games for both teams. So let's hope that they are on the wrong side of Jekyll and Hyde at this point. And then Tuesday we follow that up with another game on Seattle. We just played them, so we will get our 2 games against the Kraken out of the way early this year.
Mhm.
So, they gave us a good run. And if I'm being a little bit of uh, a guesser at this point, that might be the toughest game of the 4 games, believe it or not, is Seattle. And nobody would have said that about the Crackheads at any given time. But, maybe they're our toughest game on the fourth night. But luckily, it seems, we have the Calgary followed up the following night against Edmonton. Then it's, on Thursday. Then we have a day off, then a game, then a day off, and then with 2 days off, and then a game, and then we get to come home. So,
Yeah.
I'm hoping we go 3-1 on this road trip. I think it's reasonable, knowing where teams are in the standings, and we just need to come out of this with some good results and no more injuries.
For sure. And I would agree. I think Seattle, like real quickly right now, as of recording this episode, all the teams have 7 games in. Calgary is 1-6. You've got Edmonton at 3-3-1 overtime loss. You've got Seattle 3-2-2, and you've got Vancouver at 4-3. So no real team see like breaking away. No 5-0s, no 6-1s, nothing like that. Some pretty, I would say, average, 550 percentage winning. Um, Calgary's one we should win as long as we don't, overlook it and take it for granted and come out firing on all cylinders right away. Edmonton, you know, you've got McDavid and Draisaitl. Anything's possible there, but goaltending is an issue, as you well know. And I agree. I would agree. Seattle, I think, is going to be the hard game out of the four. Vancouver, nothing really about Vancouver scares me in particular. But you know, you say 3-1. I think if we can get 2 out of 2 on this road trip, I would consider that a success. If we went 3-1, I would be absolutely elated with that.
Yeah, I say 3-1 because I think we have the skill, and right now we're playing good hockey to get 3 wins. You again, we could predict 81-1 for the rest of the year. We already know or 80-2 because we know we lost 2 games. But again, you go in aiming high. 3-1 is aiming high. Reality is I'd accept 2-2, and we can't lose focus. Yes, we want to bank points, but even if we lose these games, they're not against teams that we have to compete for in our part of qualifying for the playoffs. So, not that we tank those games, but if we're going to lose games, I'd rather lose them to Western Conference teams and win the Eastern Conference games. So,
Mhm.
if there's a
And
if there's
and
a time.
you hit the nail right on the head because it's not just the fact that you lose this game. It's not 2 points you're giving to Toronto, Boston, Ottawa, where it could really come back to bite us in the rear end later on. I think you nailed it. That's probably the most important. As great it is to get the points, we're not giving them to somebody else that could really hurt us.
Yeah, because that's the proverbial 4 point game, right? They get two, we lose two. That's a 4 point swing
Yeah,
all day long.
yeah,
So yeah, I want to gain points, gain them quick, and gain them by the bunches. But if you're gonna lose, people, and it's gonna happen,
yeah.
let's lose them against the West.
Yeah. And I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier about Edmonton's goaltending, which seems to be a cause of fits for them, over the last couple of years, really. Um, I'm just going to throw this out there. Call me crazy, call me off the rocker, call me whatever you want to call me, but would Montembeault fit in Edmonton?
Well, of all the teams, I mean, like I said, we touch base. They have Connor Ingram, so that goes with Stuart Skinner and Cal Pickard. Uh, Monty fits in a lot of ways. I mean, if we want to kind of speculate,
Mhm.
if we go down this road and it starts to become a separation of who's the starter and who's not the starter, and who should be the starter and who's going to be the starter, if Monty has to be moved, is that not a place that should be high on the list of teams? He's on an affordable salary. My fear is, are they going to try and pawn one of those guys off to us? If it's Connor Ingram, I'd take him if we had to take a goalie back. They can't play with 17 goalies. Maybe they need to dress two of them at the same time. Maybe that'll help them. Just do one defenseman and two goalies.
Mhm.
Maybe they'll stop a couple extra pucks. But Monty would fit a bill there.
Mhm. And I don't have a problem taking one of them guys back because and the reason why I bring it up is we've had, discussions on previous episodes about our thoughts on Montembeault. But if that's the opportunity we have where we can trade him and maybe unload some of that salary or and give Dobesh his chance to shine, where you're still getting a guy back that is a, quote unquote serviceable goaltender, as previous discussion, we have options, right? And if
Right,
this is our
right.
chance to get rid of Monty, and again, I just bring it up out of pure speculation. I don't claim to know anything, no insider information. It was just a bell that went off in my head when you mentioned the
Right.
Edmonton goalie situation.
Well, and again, we've talked about who should stay, who shouldn't stay, what Monty has given us. Would I be thrilled about getting Stuart Skinner back? Not really. However, if he was a backup goalie and you only played him 30 times and you're not going into the playoffs trying to win a Stanley Cup on his back, he's been a starter in this league. He's played a lot of games. He's played in two straight Stanley Cup finals.
Mhm.
Not a terrible backup. He might not accept that role in Edmonton, but he might accept it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it would be intriguing, and maybe if you got him back, you could flip him elsewhere if that was the case. But we'll see. Like I said, I can speculate and we can talk about it. Is Sam? I'll bad puns. Montem no, our cup winning goalie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but anyways, let's
Uh,
let's let's talk about the rest of the trip and some of the concerns we have moving forward.
yeah. And real quick, I was Googling up here. Um, Both Skinner and Pickard are both on very agreeable contracts. Skinner's 2.6 mil and Pickard's on a $1 million deal. So, and then next year they're both UFAs. So, it's not like it's something we're going to be stuck with in the long term or not at a manageable number. I just want to
Right.
bring that up.
And you could take Pickard back and then send him to Laval. or just buy him out for that little bit of money. It's
Yeah,
not going to burn you. So, I mean, if you have to do what you have to do, that might be one of the have to do's.
yeah. Um, and I'm just going to bring up here now salary cap for the Montreal. Unless you know offhand what Monty's contract is.
I think he's around 2.8.
Ooh, he's 3.15 for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And Dobesh is league minimum for 2 years, which works out good. So I honestly, hey, if we could move Sammy to Edmonton, uh, and bring back either one of those two goalies, it would shed at minimum $1 million off our cap this year and get us right into UFA status with them and build that cap space for future on. Anyways, like you say, let's get into the meat of it. Um, on this road trip, we know, of course, Doc, Liney, and Gouli are out. Um, Beck was sent down. Del Gaizo was called up, and sorry, not Beck. Yeah, Beck was sent down, and Roy was called up.
Yeah,
Uh,
Joshua Wad rejoins us, and Del Gaizo, defenseman who was previously in the Nashville system, to join the current roster. This is the first time we've carried the full max on the roster. Um, some might ask why. Sick bay, right? We seem to have the usual suspects out. So let's look at injuries. Injuries are part of the game, but you always cringe when it's the same people with the same injuries.
mhm,
And these three are victim of the same sort of bad problem.
mhm,
Gouli is the one of the biggest concern. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Of course, he's in the lower body injury.
mhm,
Does he have a hangnail? Does he have a knee contusion? Probably a groin or a hamstring. 4 to 6 weeks would fit in that timeline.
mhm,
And the other two, Doc and Line, are day to day. I think with Mr. Line, it might be a yeast infection because he's demoted to the fourth line.
mhm.
But he didn't look good his last game. Something obviously is bothering him, and the same as Doc. I'm hoping it's not a knee, lower body, as they want to tell you. For him, it could be anything below the neck at that point, considered a lower body, so that they don't say that it's the same old, same old. But same story, same fan reaction. Not again.
Yeah. Well, from my sources, what I'm gleaning of the situation, uh, Doc and Line are both knee injuries, which is just this ongoing lagging, reoccurring thing. I'm hearing speculation from other news sources, other podcasts um, that neither one of them were actually ever 100% recovered from their previous injuries and were skating. And this is sort of day-to-day maintenance, aggravation to ease the aggravation and things like that. I'm not sure why they're doing that. I like the idea, honestly, that Montreal is playing as well as they are without them in the lineup because they can get the rest they need and sit out and not feel the pressure like the team has to bring them back in because they need them. Would I like to have them at 100%? Absolutely. But as long as we're playing the way we are now, which I'm very satisfied, I think they're playing well, I think we can afford to sit them out. Goulet, on the other hand, seems to be a different injury than what he has had previously. So I think he's more of the, shitty luck category.
Yeah, and he plays a little bit more of a rough and tumble game than the other two combined. We saw already he's made highlight reels with a big open ice hit, and when you do stuff like that, you are going to jar other parts of your body when you make an impact like that. So, you know, is it a wrist? Is it an arm, a forearm, an elbow? It could be anything. Anytime a guy says I can't play, it should be cause for concern. Doesn't matter how serious it is. We know in the past injuries have come back to bite us in the rear end. We have two guys. One was a captain and one was the other captain, 31-6, both in the Stanley Cup final. Both played through injury at giving blood, sweat, tears, and everything else to try and get us a Stanley Cup. And because they sacrificed the team trying to win over their own personal, they both were injured and have not played since.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the sitting out, the minor games. It is what it is. And again, you touched it in the most positive way. We're playing well without them. So, that's a good sign.
Yeah. So, and I want to touch real quickly too. I'm just going to bring it up here as quick as I can. The lineup for the games. I think with the players coming up, I think the only difference was they had uh, Roy
In Quebec.
on the lineup with Valeno and Wing and
Will do.
Valeno and Bolduc. So I think they've just slotted one out, one in, and that lineup doesn't really change much. The defense are set. I think the six, as we discussed in a previous episode, the six defensemen are pretty much set to be the way they're going to be, and Del Gaizo is a going to be a taxi squad kind of guy there if needed.
Yeah, I don't see him getting into the lineup. It would have to take another injury. When the farm
We'll,
team is
we'll
on the
keep our
road.
fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, yeah, fingers, toes, and,
Yeah,
and too much information, testicles crossed as well,
yeah.
that we don't get into that kind of an issue. But you better have the guy there than have to scramble and try and get him, because there may not be a connecting flight. He could be in Springfield or Providence, and it's two flights to get there, and he misses another game, and we're playing
Mhm.
shorthanded even more. So better safe than sorry. Good call by management, in my opinion. I hope we don't need him.
Yeah, and you're right, because it's easier to call a guy up who's already in the dressing room than it is to bring him from, at the very minimum, bring him from Laval. But like you say, he could be anywhere, wherever Laval is playing. So again, it's a convenience move. I don't think we need to panic and worry. On that note, I'm less panicked because, you and I have had our discussions. I was super impressed with his uh, preseason games anyways. I thought he actually had a chance to make the team. I was quite impressed with how he played. So I'm not concerned about him, touch wood, if we had to slot him in somewhere, I'm not concerned about him being out of place and, being a misfit. So,
Yeah, and we talk about injuries and what does that mean? It means we carry extra guys for different reasons. We touch base on him being there for the experience, new to the organization. But the bigger impact, why are injuries important, and how you get through them? It's based on giving other players a chance to play. In my opinion, this is a four-game bender, with then a return to Montreal. So call it game five. Um, Joshua Walk could be on his last unofficial official tryout with us. Here's a kid who had all kinds of upside, World Juniors. Comes in, makes some hay and some noise, and then fizzles out and can't get over the hump, and goes back to Laval. He's got an axe to grind and just can't make this team. And a guy like Oliver Kapanen, could you say took his spot? Well, probably on the radar, that's what it looks like, and that's probably the decision management had to make. One guy earned it out of camp, and the other guy is getting a secondary tryout.
yeah.
For him, I hope he plays well. If it's not for our long-term benefit, maybe it's part of the short-term solution and he's traded and he becomes of value to somebody else.
And I think we have to look realistically as well. You know me, I've been on the Kapanen bandwagon from day one. I thought he should have made it. No issues. Uh, uh, as far as Awa goes, um, is it possible maybe he's just because when he's in Laval, he plays lights out, he does well, he scores, he does all the things you need to do. Maybe, and I'm asking, maybe is he just a great AHL player and he's never going to play in the NHL? Is that the possibility?
And ultimately that is. I mean, we drafted a kid. If you look at junior stats, we drafted a kid way back. So I don't have his exact draft year. Kid who played for the Ottawa 67s, Corey Locke.
Ah,
His name back in the day was Can't Skate Corey. He put up 150 points playing for the Ottawa 67s,
mm,
and we drafted him in the fifth round. And people back then were saying, here's a guy with hordes of scoring potential.
Mhm.
But let's remember, when you're playing in junior hockey, you could be a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old playing against 16-year-olds. You're starting to develop into early manhood where some of these guys are still prepubescent teenagers. And, it's a big change.
Mhm.
Corey Locke was nothing more than an AHL player. Didn't even get a cup of coffee with us.
Yeah,
You know,
I remember him playing in a few preseason games, and I think that was it.
yeah. So, Joshua Waugh's done more than that already. He's got some game time action in the show. Now it's put up or shut up time, in
Mhm.
my opinion. He needs to come out. He needs to do something fantabulous to at least say, you go back down and you're part of our future.
Mhm.
I think this could be their make or break road trip for him.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, if it doesn't pan out for him, he can never say I didn't get a chance because he's had a half a dozen chances in the last 2 or 3 years to try to get here and stick. He's been given more than enough opportunity to uh, to make his mark.
Yeah, and I mean, let's hope that we get into one of these blowout games and he can get more than 7, 10 minutes of ice. Maybe the team has another 10 power play night and we're up 4 goals and he can get power play time. He is creative enough and does that role in Laval. So, there's an opportunity for him. I hope he takes it. That being said, no fault of Beck going back. Owen did what he had to do. Didn't look terribly out of place. Didn't steal the thunder away from anybody. But with guys like this, we have waiver exemptions due to age and term and years of service and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a matter of getting a few extra pieces in and nothing like reevaluating at the NHL level and letting them play there.
Mhm.
So there's no risk to send him back. And it could be, look, we want you to do skill A and you're just not there yet. Go back to Laval and work on it.
Yeah,
This
he's
same
been given
thing
some
could be
homework.
said. Yeah, this could be the same thing for Joshua Waugh. We've given you the time.
Yeah.
You've been here before. We've sent you back to work on it. Now show us, homework is paying off.
And I like the approach they're taking by giving different guys call ups, giving them different chances, giving them, that little bit of motivation to play, not only with the big club, but to play with Laval, where they say, hey, if I show what I can do, they're giving everybody a chance. Anybody can get called up, right? So it's
Right.
not just like, oh wow, they're going to call up Roy every time, or they're going to call it back. That's it. I mean, they're letting everybody know, hey, you show us and you have a chance.
Right. And that's the organizational depth that we've been lacking. I mean, in years gone past, we've had guys that are career AHLers, been down there 6, 7 years. They're the guys we're calling up. There's a reason they were in Laval for 6 years, right? Is because they weren't good enough. Some of them have left, gone to other organizations to play in the minors there, who have come back to say, I like it here,
Mhm.
right? This organization has treated me well. So, am I thrilled to get Belzile back? Yeah, to play in Laval. He's a good cornerstone player. Laurent Dauphin left, went to Arizona. He's come back. These guys are consummate professionals. They know that they've had a chance here. There still could be a chance down the road. But at least they can mentor some of these young guys and say, "We've been there, kid. Do it this way."
Yeah.
So, organizational depth's important. And, again, touching back and circling back, that's where injuries are going to happen. Who can make the most of the chance due to somebody else's unfortunate circumstance? It's going to happen. We need to overcome it. So this is another one of those chances.
Yeah, and I think there's two sides to that same coin, which inherently shows off the brilliance of Gordon and Hughes and stuff like that. I think they do it for a couple reasons, not only to give the players a chance, but maybe as a showcase thinking further down the road where they can say, hey, look what Awa has done here. Look what Beck has done here. Make them tradable, right? Because
Yeah,
you and I both know we've had this discussion before too. There's 50 roster spots or 50 contract spots. There's 23 roster spots. We've got way too many guys that are never going to play for Montreal. So why hinder them and keep them and waste them when we can possibly package them again, as many of our discussions, the trade deadline, the Christmas break, the Olympic break, whatever. But at some point, something has to give.
Yeah, yeah. And you can call it a showcase for some of these guys to be moved elsewhere. We don't know. I'm not speculating that this is why Joshua was here and Owen Beck is not, but maybe it is. Maybe this is, if you don't do well enough for us to want to keep us here, you're not in our plans, and therefore you've shown enough, somebody's going to take you. And it frees up a contract. There's guys that we can put in Laval. There's lots of guys we can go and get in Laval, but we need to make sure that's a productive place to play.
Yeah. Um, on that note, I think we'll just skip into, you got any final thoughts on the road trip? Any predictions that you haven't discussed? Anything you want to add?
Well, I again, I'm looking for momentum to carry. Am I going to say we're going to lose to Edmonton or we're going to lose to Vancouver? I think we're going to lose one game. I always look for the effort and the pace of play following a loss. Let's get back on the horse and let's do this. So, I'm looking for this 4 games to be much the same. We've competed, we've skated, we don't quit. We've seen last minute goals, overtime goals. I'm looking for that same effort to carry forward.
Okay. Um, I would agree. I think depending on their effort, as we've discussed before, are they going to come out playing from the first whistle, first face off? Honestly, there's nothing that tells me Montreal can't win 4 of these games. Will they do it? I don't know. Like I said, if they come home on a 500, 2 out of 2, I'm happy. If they go 3-1, which you predict, I'm ecstatic. If they go 4-0, we'll be like the Leafs. Let's start planning the Stanley Cup parade, right? Um,
I'll put my poutine order in if that's the case.
yeah, we'll book the hotel rooms. Um,
Yeah. I may
uh,
have to go to the local place. I may have to go to GM Burger, Teddy's, and get a poutine just to keep me all primed up for the parade day.
yeah,
But I'm sure we could get one.
yeah. So I think that's basically my concern on the road trip. I like what they're doing with the player call-ups and, having all their ducks in a row, as you would say, and, taking care of the small things that maybe people wouldn't really notice or understand or even think of. I'm expecting a successful road trip, like you say, carry on the momentum and keep this train a rolling.
Absolutely.
And on that thought, let's bring us down to our trivia answer.
So trivia answer, Western theme based. Again, we're fastest overtime goal in Stanley Cup playoff history. Not just the Montreal Canadian record. This is in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you have to go all the way back to 1986. And for those that don't remember, there was some young kid that came out of Granby, Quebec, who was a goofy, gangly looking goalie, wore the number 33, that as a rookie put this team on his back and elevated himself from a sub 3.5 goals against average to become quite a hell of a goalie. Patrick Waugh was a rookie at this time. The goal was scored in game 2 against the Calgary Flames. There's your Western tie. Brian Scrudlin scored 9 seconds in against Mike Vernon.
Mhm.
If you got up to get a cup of coffee or to get a snack, you would have missed that one, and Bedlam broke loose. And
Yeah. If you didn't
Brian
pinch it off
Scrudlin,
after the pee break and hurry back, you might as
yeah,
well have
Brian
stayed in there.
Scrudlin, the unsung hero back in the day. War
Yeah.
number 39, if those of you don't remember,
Yeah.
a little bit of an obscure number back in its day.
Yeah.
But Brian Scrudlin, 9 seconds in.
And he was actually one of them guys, just to add to that, he was one of them guys that wasn't a major star, wasn't, all the flash, glitz and glamour, but he was one of them, unsung heroes of that team in that era.
Yeah, the toes in line with some old names, Sergio Momesso and Mike McPhee, guys that were just, the lunch pail and work boot kind of guys that went out and did their job, and they didn't get the accolades that the Mats Naslunds got back in the day, and
Mhm.
the Kirk Mullers who were leading us down that path. But he just, again, constant effort, did what we needed them to do, and they helped win us a cup.
Yeah. And like I say, you can have all the Lafleurs, the McDavids and all them players, but you don't win without those other guys. You don't win without the Scrudelins, the McPhees, and the Mike Greens. You don't win without them guys.
Yeah, they are, and we need them. You're right. I mean, in the salary cap era, those guys are out there, but are they the right guys?
Mhm.
You hope that is Jake Evans our modern day Brian Scrudlin? Might be. You need those guys.
Yeah. And on that note, we're going to conclude this episode. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Look forward to hearing from your comments, your pictures if you want to send us pictures. So please remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and we hope you enjoy this one. Looking forward to see you on the next one.
I'll give one quick shout out before we end this. Hats off to another good buddy of mine, Mark Archer. He runs a Facebook group, Elite Hab Fans. You will see picture and link in this. He gave the podcast a shout out in his Facebook group, so thanks a lot, Mark. We do appreciate it, and like we say, we ask you to like, comment, share.
Yeah.
We do have a Facebook group as well. So if you search the podcast in Facebook, if there's another avenue you want to drop us a line, drop us a picture, we can screenshot, grab, and add to this. That's the place to do it.
Mhm. Excellent,
And
excellent. And again, I want to send out my thanks to Mark and all those in the Facebook world that help us out as well. We will definitely post a link in our comments below so everybody can find them and join their group and help them with their success as well.
and as always, keep your stick on the ice.